The views and opinions expressed on any program are those of the producers and/or the persons appearing on the program, and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of FRC Media, Bristol Community College, or the City of Fall River.
Well, hello. Welcome to Spindle City Straight Talk. I'm Chip.
And I'm CJ.
And it's Monday.
Is it really?
The beginning of another week in the Riv.
Yep. And I'm going to start out the show with a wonderful reminder for our viewers who might be interested. Tomorrow, the Massachusetts Attorney General will be paying the City of Fall River a visit at 6 p.m. at the City Council Chamber room. A training will be taking place on the open meeting law. It will be interesting to see which people do not show up.
All are encouraged to attend.
All are encouraged to attend, especially the citizens. This way you can find out what the open meeting law is about. And who knows, maybe you'll start filing some complaints as well. Not that they don't have enough of that either. Oh, and by the way, our friend Patrick Higgins advised me today that he will not be available all week as he's completing his graduation requirements for his 2 degrees, one of which is in pre-law. So it should be interesting. Also, Patrick will now be addressed as the Reverend Patrick Higgins.
Okay. All right. So we have the Honorable C.J. Ferry and the Reverend Patrick Higgins, and I feel so left out. I'll have to give myself something. Yeah, so.
Well, actually, if you want to get into all the titles, you know, it's the Reverend Dr. C.J. Ferry, R.N. Ph.N.
Well, yeah.
I can keep tracking out all the
yeah, you
the
got an entire alphabet,
right,
so
exactly.
like, you got more degrees than a thermometer, so we know that. So,
but you know, it's always lots of fun. I have to give Mr. Dion again.
Yeah. And a quick congratulations to Patrick on graduating. Anybody that, you know, pursues educational incentives always has, you know, you got to give him kudos. So.
Yeah, you do. But you know, back to Mr. Dion.
Yeah.
If you haven't read his column, please do. I mean, it is hysterical. And you know, while I may not always be
trying to kill me.
You know, while I may not always be on point with the print media, you know, especially with my name for them being the Pravda, I think it's just very funny because, you know, Mr. Dion's columns are amazing, and the comparisons of the mayoral candidates is just, I mean, it's clear cut and it's direct.
Yeah.
So
you know, as you said, nobody agrees with everything and every single thing everybody says, even people you mind. But you know, Marc has always been a good writer. Even the articles I dislike, they are well written and do a very they do a great job of in most cases satirically poking fun at what you know, some of the issues that face us. And so you know, kudos. But this, as you said, this is again an article well worth reading, and he did a nice job. It is funny.
you have to admit, you know, it's it makes for an interesting life when you can laugh at yourself, and hopefully these candidates are actually laughing at this satire and not, you know, taking it personal, because we know in Fall River everyone seems to take everything personal.
That's true. Well, they take it personally because it's all about self-interest. But, you know, that's one of the things about Marc's writing. Marc is, you know, Marc's a, you know, I mean, he's a regular guy. I mean, he works for a living. He doesn't, you know, he's living in the city. He's suffering the slings and arrows of the outrageous fortunes that we're being thrown at us. And you know, so the perspective that he brings is from what, you know, the everyday person in Fall River is facing. The guy that doesn't have, you know, can't give himself a pay raise and get mileage and per diem, and you know, a guy that has to pay his water bills and his electric light bills and
Don't
stuff.
talk about water bills.
Yeah, well, you know, but I mean, you know, he's in the boat that most of us are in. We don't have the ability to give ourselves a pay raise, you
That's
know,
right.
and so it,
We
it
had
come-
Joe the plumber, and now we have, you know,
yeah,
Marc the writer.
Yeah, which, well, it's you know, it's good that, you know, he's not writing from theory in a lot of these things. You know, he's writing from the perspective of somebody who, like we are, we're sitting here in the city of Fall River, and, you know, we are being subjected, you know, to, you know, the fallout from what goes on in this city.
I have to disagree with you there.
Oh, okay.
This is not the city of Fall River. This is the People's Republic
Yeah, well,
of Fall River.
well, they're trying to make that. They're trying to make it into it. And after reading that charter proposal, it is to me absolutely, you know, clear that the last thing they want is the people to run the government. After reading that some of the things that are contained in this charter reform, which, by the way, I'll begin before we begin our little dissertation on the charter reform. I will say right out of the get-go, after we finish, you know, saying what we have with a problem, my initial problem is that this is not what I voted for.
No, it's not.
We did not vote for a complete revamping of the charter and taking pieces from charters. We asked our charter to be basically brought into the 21st century, and then ultimately having additional tweaks and in-depth studies of areas that were identified in this initial thing. This was more of an overview, kind of bringing it up to, you know, getting rid of some of the more archaic and, you know, language and bringing it into the 21st century and then moving on from there. And the end result is just not only not what we asked for, but, God, it flies in the face of what the United States was based on. Talk about creating a political monarchy that's virtually impossible to remove. When you read this thing, it's actually scary. It's scary.
You'll notice the background music.
I'm waiting. You're not queuing it up. Okay. Don't cue.
I'm telling you, you know, it's that's the marches from a former fascist
That's
government,
right.
which
Right.
no longer exists. But you know what? It's going to exist in Fall River with this charter, and I'm going to make very clear. I disagree with so much of this; it's unbelievable. So much of this charter is put in that's already based in Massachusetts general law. It's already based there. So why do we have to put it into our charter? You know, Mike Mioza said during this process that he wanted it to pop out. He wanted people to say, look, why didn't we think of doing that? Well, guess what? They're not going to say that. They're going to say, copycat.
Yeah.
Because that's what this is. And the worst part about it is...
Or fascist.
Yeah. That's the worst part about it. If you want anything to pass, if you want to override anything that this government does, under this provision, 20% of the voters must go out and vote. When was the last time you remember 20% of the voters coming out to vote for anything in Fall River?
I mean, we've had some elections that we had 12, 13% turnouts, especially in primaries. It's like, so they're going to hold. If something is done that the public feels is reprehensible, because most of the population now, as Mr. Monroe said in his Dion said in his article, is made up of people who are not involved. They're drug addicted, whatever. They're not interested in government. But those people who are, the victims of whatever is perpetrated, we have to get 20%. We have to have a 20% turnout. That's ludicrous.
And
I
if you
mean,
don't- if you
that's
don't,
not the
it's
way
a
the
non-starter.
government. That's not
That's
the way
right.
the government was created. The government was created to be a representative form of government. You hold an election. If people don't want to come out, well, they will suffer by their acquiescence. They will have to go with what the majority that did come out. But you have to allow the people. You can't make it impossible for the people to affect government, because just as when they talked about, they want to check the viability of candidates.
Oh,
to
yeah, I love
to run
that
for
one.
public office. I mean, that is absolutely ludicrous. If I had my way, you wouldn't need any signatures, because that's America. You want to run for office? Well, good, because now you're participating in government. I know you'll go to vote if you're running for something, and now we're going to have like 8 million signatures to get on the ballot. It's going to be worse than running for governor.
Yeah, and to quote Attorney Assad, Commissioner Assad,
Yeah.
okay, this will serve to vet out those people who do not have citywide support. That's paraphrase. I actually put the actual quote in the Weekend Flush, okay? But he said it very clearly. It will cause the poorer candidate not to run. And who appointed him? Who appointed this commission to be the delegates of the people? They are not. They are not the delegates of the people.
I have a response to Mr. Assad's assertion that and I agree, who are we to determine who is viable or not? Who are we to determine who is worthy of running? If they are citizens of the United States and they are qualified to run, they should be able to run. That is absolutely discriminatory. And here's my response to him: that governments are initiated among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. That means the poor people, the people that can only get 2 signatures, and then maybe when they get those 2 signatures and they bring their message to the people will rally around them and they will get elected. Because they can't get 3,000 signatures out of the gate doesn't mean that once they begin to bring their message. Okay, let me go back to this now. That deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed, that whenever any form of government becomes destructive to these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or to abolish it and institute a new government, laying its foundations on such principles and organizing its powers in such form as to them shall seem most likely to affect their safety and happiness. Guess what? That's from Attorney Assad, the Declaration of Independence. This charter is a travesty. It flies in the face of the very foundation of this nation. The fact that we rule the government. They're making a recall virtually impossible. They're making getting on the ballot virtually impossible. They're making to overturn anything. Once you're elected, you become a monarch with this charter. This charter should be blown up so quickly, it shouldn't get 10 votes.
The bigger problem I have with this is that they rewrote the recall position, into the charter, and it almost looks exactly like the original one, but it isn't.
Except.
Okay, there's always the except. And then you get down to the bottom of this proposed manifesto. I call it a manifesto. This isn't a charter.
Mein Kampf.
Yeah, Mein Kampf. Thank you very much. It says that this charter will repeal the Recall Act. Really? You're going to repeal the Recall Act? When did you get authorized? When did you get authorized to recall provisions in state government? I didn't know that was part of being a charter commissioner.
Did a charter commission create that recall provision?
No, they didn't.
So You know, so now we have 4 branches of government. We have the executive, the legislative, the judicial, and the charter commission.
Yeah, and I think the Charter Commission's actual title is, a division of the propaganda ministry, because it's ridiculous. I mean, they are the policy making division of the administration. One of the provisions of this new manifesto is that the mayor serve on every single board, every single commission that he appoints. You think there might be a little bit of a conflict there?
Plus, he gets to appoint another one of his rubber stamps with him so he can have some company.
Exactly, And the problem is this. Granted, he's ex officio, he doesn't have a vote, et cetera, but you know what? The fact that he's there is enough of a area where you can exercise some coercion, some intimidation. And it shouldn't be that way. I firmly believe that no board, no commission, no authority should be appointed. I believe that you want to be on the Zoning Board of Appeals, you want to be on the Licensing Board, the Park Board, the Planning Commission, whatever, you've got to be elected. You'll run for the office, and guess what? Then we won't have all of these rubber stamps. Because guess what we have found? Through numerous administrations, it's not just this administration. And Chip, you know this. I mean, I remember an administration where my family was a part of it, and they really were rubber stamping everything. and you know what? It's not right. It's not right. If we had accountability right down to the board level, where you elected these people, and guess what? If all of a sudden they're doing things that you don't want, do you know the Zoning Board of Appeal is the most guilty of all the boards we have? Zoning appeals are only supposed to be based on one thing: topography. But they grant appeals on everything. Everything. If you got the right lawyer and the right person, guess what? It happens.
It gets approved.
It gets approved. And you know what? That is just wrong. It's just wrong. And this charter just empowers the mayor more so, gives him more powers. And then the review portion, and I love this one, the review portion of this manifesto says that every 5 years they will review ordinances with appointments from the mayor and the city council. And then every 10 years they're going to review the charter with appointments from the mayor, the city council, 2 residents, and 1 member of the school committee. Do you see any equal balance of power there at all? No. I see the elected monarchy maintaining control so that nothing changes.
Yeah, it's obvious. And not only does it fly in the face of the Declaration, and actually not even fly in the face, it violates the mandate of our Declaration, which says when government is no longer working for us, we are fundamentally obligated to change it. But it also flies in the face of one of our favorite things. Part of the first,
Article 5.
Article 5, that all magistrates and agents of the government, be they legislative, executive, or judicial, are at all times answerable to the people. So, but yet we have seen government on every level, but especially in the state of Massachusetts and now in Fall River, where they're going to make it impossible. Once they're in, they're dictators. They can't be. They're going to control every board. They're going to control every ordinance, and they're going to go back and, which is, even in, just think about the horrific, and that's the only adjective I can think of, power that you're giving them. You're allowing them, because under the rules of order, Roberts and Atwoods, if somebody makes a motion and you pass it, and if there's a motion to reconsider, it's got to be at that meeting or the next subsequent meeting. Otherwise, that's it. It's over. You can't go back when you get a new regime 5 years later and undo every motion that was made and every policy that was made 5 years ago. So think about this. They're going to go and review city ordinances. So they could basically undo anything they want. Anything that stands in their way of getting their agenda through, they're going to be able to undo. And that process should not be that easy. They're making it as difficult as possible for the people to intervene in government, while they make it as easy as possible for them to basically change everything. All the rules, all the ordinances, we can just undo anything. Oh, you remember that ordinance that was passed like 50 years ago and has been fined for 50 years? It's standing in the way of my buddy getting something, and it might be a conflict, so the hell with it, let's review it and throw it out. I mean, think of this. Think of what this charter basically is saying. It's basically saying we got to get a new video cue too, CJ. You know, like screw you, taxpayer, but instead of Vanna White, we got to have somebody from the Charter Commission spinning the wheel.
Well, you know, I honestly believe that, you know, and I've been jokingly say it, but I think I'm going to do it. I'm going to get the old SS uniform. I'm going to replace the SS epaulet tags with the, you know, Fall River logo, the FR logo now that they've put in the rebranding campaign. And I'm going to do the same thing on the sleeve. I'm going to replace that, and I'm going to get the black jack boots. And, you know, I'm going to march into a Charter Commission meeting or a City Council meeting. They cannot stop me. They cannot stop me. It's my right of free speech and freedom of expression. Okay? It may be offensive to some people. It's offensive to me to even have to do that to make a point. But that's what this is becoming. And every single member of that Charter Commission that voted to put this through, and I only know of one Charter Commissioner who voted no on almost all of it, if not all of it, okay, should be required to get into one of those uniforms so that they can make it very clear to the people of Fall River that they don't care what you want. They don't care. The people's rights don't matter. And that's very clear by Attorney Assad's and Chairman Mayo's statements that these provisions will make it more difficult, that it will weed out, and now I'm going to paraphrase it, weed out the undesirable candidates. Okay? The people that they don't want. And guess what? My opinion is they only should need one signature, their own. Walk in and say, here's my name, put me on the ballot.
Well, you know, you're 100% right, because it's objectionable to me. It's the exact opposite of what I feel, because what they're basically saying, and unless you're rich, unless you're well-connected, and if you're not rich and well-connected, you have to sell yourself out to these people.
That's right.
In order to be able to run for public office. And I think that's what's wrong on our national level. That you have to be backed by huge mega PACs and multi-billionaires in order to run for any office on the federal level. And so, therefore, it precludes the average American, the people who established this country, the people who that Declaration of Independence was written for, the people who put down their plows, unhooked the horse, put it in a barn, and picked up a musket and went and put their life on the line to establish a new nation. The people who worked in the print shops and the stores in Boston, who left their jobs to go fight for this nation. Every single individual in this nation should be able to run for office. It shouldn't be about money. It shouldn't be about your station in life. There might be somebody without two nickels to rub together who has some tremendous ideas. And once he gets a platform to run for public office, he may not have had the money to run, but he may have the fire in his belly, and he may have some ideas that can turn this city and this nation around. I think that's one of the fundamental problems we have in this nation, that regular people who know the problems that high health care costs bring, that high pharmaceutical drug plans take, and the toll it takes on families and individuals. If we had people like that in Washington, not people who live by their own rules, have their own great health care, live as a separate monarchy in their own alternate universe. It's true. They live in an
you're right,
alternate
but you know,
universe. But now we have the city of Fall River, which is government at its lowest level,
People's Republic.
where we should have more ability for grassroots people to rise up and run for city council, and run for mayor, and run for state rep. They're trying everything they can to vet. Who the hell are you to vet?
Yeah, you know, they're acting like...
Yeah,
They're acting like,
who are you?
They're acting like the political parties, okay?
Yeah, you're going to vet. Well, you know, but look what party most of them are in.
Yep, the
I'm an
Democratic,
independent.
yeah.
But that's the party that vetted Bernie Sanders. They vetted him and said, he can't run. He's not worthy.
That's right.
You are not worthy, Bernie. And so now they're doing it to Fall River. And you know something? There might be some guy without two nickels to rub together who, if he got on the council, could become a really good counselor. Because maybe you have a perspective based on people that don't have a lot of money, instead of saying, I look at this city and I see a city. What was that?
Thriving metropolis.
A thriving metropolis. You know, I got a mental block even thinking that when I'm trying to think of what he said. But I mean, we've got city councilors who think we're living in Newton, and you know, this whole thing to me is frankly disgusting. It flies in the face of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts Constitution, flies in the face of our Declaration of Independence and our Constitution. You know, that this is a country of the people, by the people, and for the people.
Not in Fall River, it's not.
It's only the people that are vetted properly.
Right.
And we don't want anybody, you know, so what? What's it going to cost? 22 cents to put 65 people on a ballot? I don't care. Put 65 people on a ballot. If 65 people want to run for office, that's 65 people who are going to vote. This charter is a disgrace. It's trying to prevent people from being involved. It's trying to make it impossible for us to turn around anything a politician does, and it's making it easier for them to manipulate even our own laws. They can even change our ordinances. This thing is, and to go back to my original point, this is not what we voted for.
No, it's not. And, you know, the thing is...
So guess what? You already know which way I'm voting on this charter.
And, you know, here's the thing. I've already heard it. Oh, well, this is the proposed. It was already sent to the Attorney General for minor changes, okay? Where the Attorney General says, no, you can't do this, you can't do this, you can't do this. You're going to make the minor changes. But guess what? This is what you're proposing. And what we like to call those people that you talk about with the money people and whatnot, political whores. They are political whores. It's that simple. And then your level below that, because they don't have the money, are the political hacks, the political ass kissers. Okay? You want to see them? Look at both sides of the city council chamber and watch the mass of people that follows them around like there's no tomorrow. And I don't mean they're following around the city council meetings or the actions of government. They're following around the political candidates. Watch them. Watch them when they're at the fundraisers. Watch them when they're at private meetings. Watch how many of those people show up, and then you'll know who they are. Okay? And they may all have good intentions. They may not have good intentions. Who knows? I'm just saying, in Fall River, as in many other places in this country, perceptions are the reality. And always remember, Donald Trump was thought not to be a viable candidate. They did not vet Donald Trump.
And many people still don't think that. But let me just say again that I'm reading this again. Governments are instituted among men, deriving their powers from the consent of the governed. I don't see anything in here from the consent of the vetted governed, from the consent of only the people that we feel are worthy.
We're not worthy, that's why, you know.
So,
but this charter will create a government where the people are not worthy and the people don't matter. Thank you very much, Commissioner Mayoza, Commissioner Assad, Commissioner Venice, Commissioner Norton, Commissioner Quinn. I can just go down the line. Oh, Commissioner Sylvia. Okay, you're all hacks. And I thank you for this manifesto, because guess what? I'm not voting for it. Have a great day. And make sure you tune in on Wednesday because it's going to be a real show.
Stay
Take care.
angry
Take a new one.
unless you're going to get vetted.